Hey, last week's disappointing jobs report is sparking concerns about the health of the U.S. economy and was the talk of the Sunday shows. National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett is calling for reforms in how jobs data is calculated. Listen to what he told Margaret Brennan on Face the Nation.
And the reason we're getting these massive revisions and these numbers that don't make sense is really that we've got to modernize the way we do the labor data. But if you look at the non-labor data, second quarter GDP was revised up to 3.3%. The Atlanta Fed's GDP estimate for the third quarter right now is 3%. And so industrial production's at an all-time high. The thing that I'm most suspicious of right now in terms of data quality is the job number, in part because there are other ways to do it.
All right, let's bring in CBS News MoneyWatch correspondent Kelly O'Grady. So the Bureau of Labor Statistics has calculated these jobs numbers since you're the expert. They've been doing this for a long time, decades. And every president, Republican or Democrat, is fine with them, even when they are revised, which happens periodically. All of a sudden in this administration, everything is suspicious, everything is suspect. Let's just talk about the real impact of that jobs report. And what that could potentially mean for interest rates.
Yeah, and to be fair, a lot of economists have, by the way, criticized the way that the jobs data has been collected because over time, people aren't answering their phones, they're not faxing things back. It does need to be modernized, to that point. But in terms of how this is going to impact interest rates, we are going to get a cut next week. So the Federal Reserve is going to meet September 16th and 17th, and the market is pricing in a 100% chance we are getting an interest rate cut.
100%.
I know. If I'm a betting person.
We can't predict a lot of things, but that is a pretty big signal.
Two things, though, that I find really interesting. One, we are going to get another inflation report at the end of this week. And so that will give a sense of, okay, are we sure we're going to get an interest rate cut? Because obviously if you see inflation go up, then the Fed is going to have to weigh a weaker jobs report with higher inflation. The other thing that I found really interesting is the second that jobs report came out on Friday, I went and I looked at how the market was pricing in a cut. All of a sudden, 10% chance of a half-point percentage point rate cut. And if you think about the last time we got a half-point rate cut, it was when we had 3 months of slowing job growth. Now we have 4. So that's in the conversation. Do we need to turbocharge that growth?
But if they do decide to cut rates, Kelly, doesn't that signal to everybody and to other economists that, we're in a period where there's going to be some economic volatility and uncertainty over the next, because the Fed is trying to actually head that off at the curve, so to speak.
Possibly, because remember, they hadn't gotten down to where they wanted to be anyway when it comes to interest rates. We have been higher for longer, as we've been talking about, with inflation being sticky. I think what it does signal to sort of the broader business community is they see the job market as a more of a problem than the possibility of higher inflation.
All right. Let's talk about tariffs, which is facing potentially a Supreme Court ruling. Scott Bessent said America would have to refund about half the tariffs if the Supreme Court rules that President Trump has overstepped his authority. I want to play a little bit of what he said.
If the court says it, we'd have to do it. But, let's look back. Again, when I was here in April, the sky was falling with the tariffs, that everyone is leaving the U.S. Since then, the U.S. bond market has been the best performing bond market in the developed world. And from Barclays Bank to Goldman Sachs to others are saying it is the tariff income and the fiscal improvement that we are seeing. And that's what President Trump is talking about.
All right. So is he accurate?
To some extent, yes, because when this question of the Treasury having to refund all of this money came about last week, you saw Treasury rates increase. And so what that means is it became tougher to sell government debt. They had to give a higher interest rate for you and me to say, yeah, okay, I'm interested. I will take that on. And so this idea of if you have the Treasury having to give all that money back, you're going to increase the deficit. And that's not something that investors or economists want to see. Now, if you're a business, you probably are saying, hey, I'd love to get that money back.
Right, for sure.
But we also do know they will try and find other ways. There are other loopholes of the law where they could put those tariffs back into place.
So you're going to be here, I think, a lot this week. By the end of the week, by let's say Friday, what are you thinking? What will the markets look like?
I think they're going to look pretty much the same.
Yeah.
I think we're going to get an inflation report that's ticking up slightly, but not in a huge way.
Right.
I'm not a betting person, though, so don't quote me
gotcha.
on that.
I gotcha.
But I think, it's going to be more of the same, and investors are going to be looking at that
But
rate
the
cut
good news
next
is
week.
that the market has already priced this in, right? I'm not expecting like a huge swing either way when these
Exactly.
numbers come out.
Exactly.
All right, Kelly O'Grady, always good to have you, my friend. Thank you.